The diplomatic facade. The grand hall of the Galactic Conclave shimmered with the combined light of 1,000 crystalline chandeliers, each representing a member world of the ancient interstellar alliance. Species of all forms mingled in the vast chamber. The insectoid Zexar, with their chitinous exoskeletons, the floating gas bubble Madurians, the reptilian Vraxians with their scaled hides glinting like polished armor. And then there were the humans. They had arrived only 30 standard cycles ago, a newcomer species that had somehow mastered faster-than-light travel despite their relative youth. The Conclave had reluctantly extended an invitation for Earth to join, more out of protocol than genuine welcome. After all, what could these soft-skinned, fragile bipeds offer to an alliance that had maintained galactic peace for 14 millennia? Ambassador Elena Chen walked with measured steps across the hall, her simple gray uniform a stark contrast to the ornate regalia of the other species. A small pin representing Earth was the only adornment she wore. Behind her, a delegation of 5 similarly dressed humans followed, their expressions pleasant but reserved. "The human contingent approaches," whispered Dravox, the Vraxian representative, his forked tongue flicking between razor-sharp teeth. "They seem unarmed." High Commander Zulax of the Madurian fleet bubbled in amusement, his translucent body pulsing with blue light. "As expected, they are diplomats, negotiators. They lack the evolutionary advantages that true warrior species possess." Elena reached the central podium and bowed slightly to the Council of Elders. "Honorable members of the Conclave, Earth extends its gratitude for your welcome. We come seeking peaceful exchange and mutual prosperity." Her voice carried clearly through the hall, translated instantaneously by the neural interfaces each delegate wore. The words were diplomatic, measured, exactly what the Conclave expected from a species so clearly out of its depth in galactic politics. What the Conclave didn't see was the calculation behind Elena's eyes, the precise assessment of every exit, every potential threat, every strategic position in the room. They didn't notice how the other humans had positioned themselves at key points throughout the chamber, maintaining clear lines of sight to one another. The Grand Elder, a Zexar whose exoskeleton had dulled with age, clicked his mandibles appreciatively. "Earth's reputation for diplomacy precedes you, Ambassador Chen. We understand your species places great value on peaceful resolution." Elena smiled. "Peace is always our preferred path, Elder. But paths are chosen based on circumstances." The cryptic statement drew confused glances from several delegates, but the meeting proceeded. For 3 days, the human delegation participated in trade negotiations, cultural exchanges, and diplomatic formalities. They were unfailingly polite, reasonable in their requests, and quick to compromise. "They're so accommodating," remarked Dravox to his aide, after watching Elena yield on yet another minor point during resource allocation talks. "Almost submissive. A species that evolved on a single world, with no natural defenses," the aide replied dismissively. "What else would they be?" On the 4th day of the Conclave Summit, everything changed. Elena was midway through a presentation on Earth's agricultural contributions when her neural interface chimed softly. Only the humans recognized the sound for what it was, a priority alert from Earth Command. Elena paused, touching her temple lightly. The Grand Elder tilted his head. "Is there a problem, Ambassador?" Elena's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes shifted, a hardness crystallizing that hadn't been there before. "I'd just received word that Outpost Helios, a human research station in the Cygnus Arm, has been attacked by unknown forces. Civilian casualties are reported." A murmur passed through the chamber. Attacks on civilian outposts were rare in Conclave space. "This is most concerning." The Grand Elder clicked. "The Conclave can dispatch a peacekeeping force to investigate within a standard week." "That won't be necessary," Elena interrupted, her voice cool and precise. "Earth will handle this matter." The Vraxian representative scoffed, scales bristling. "With respect, Ambassador, your species has only a handful of starships. Whatever attack your outpost could be a significant threat. You should accept Conclave assistance. Alina's smile never reached her eyes. I appreciate your concern, Representative Dravox. However, Earth has sufficient resources to address this situation. Ambassador Chen. Zilax bubbled urgently. Diplomatic protocol requires that you first request permission for any military action within Conclave space, even in defense of your own outposts. Alina nodded once. Consider this our formal notification, then. Earth vessels will be responding to this attack effective immediately. The way she said it sent a strange chill through the chamber. It wasn't a request. It wasn't even a statement of intent. It was simply informing the Conclave of what would happen. But your ships, Dravox began, are already en route. Alina finished for him. She tapped her neural interface again. If you'll excuse me, I need to coordinate with our fleet. The Grand Elder's mandibles clicked rapidly in concern. Your fleet? Our intelligence suggested Earth maintained only transport and research vessels. Alina paused at the edge of the podium, looking back at the assembled delegates. For the first time, they saw something in her expression that made them uneasy. Something predatory. Your intelligence was incomplete, she said simply. Within hours, the Conclave's central monitoring station detected the activation of no fewer than 27 warships emerging from hidden positions throughout nearby systems. The delegates watched in stunned silence as the holographic display tracked the vessels, sleek, dark ships moving with precision toward the Cygnus arm. How did we not know of these? Zilax demanded, his gaseous form pulsing with agitation. Where were they hiding? Alina, who had rejoined the Conclave after a brief absence, stood calmly before the display. She had changed from her diplomatic attire into something more functional. A dark uniform with utility pouches and reinforced joints. Humanity has always maintained a defensive posture, she explained, watching the ships move across the projection. We believed it prudent to keep certain capabilities, reserved until needed. Those aren't defensive vessels, Dravox said slowly, his reptilian eyes narrowing as he studied the ship's configurations. Those are hunter-killers. Alina didn't confirm or deny this. Instead, she tapped a command into her wrist device. The holographic display zoomed in on one particular vessel at the front of the formation. Unlike the others, this ship bore distinct markings and moved slightly ahead of the main group. The ESS Nemesis, Alina said, and for the first time, there was something like pride in her voice. Our flagship. The name sent another chill through the chamber. In ancient Earth mythology, Nemesis was the goddess of retribution. Commander Chen, came a voice from Alina's wrist device. We've identified the attackers. Rogue Vexillor mercenary group, heavily armed. They've taken position around Helios and are attempting to access the station's research databases. The delegates exchanged confused glances. Commander Chen. Alina's response was immediate and unflinching. Execute Protocol Thunderstrike. No survivors. The stark command hung in the air of the conclave chamber. Confirmed, Commander. Thunderstrike authorized. Dravox stepped forward, his massive frame looming over Alina. Ambassador, or should I say Commander, what is the meaning of this? You cannot simply. I can and I will. Alina replied, meeting his gaze without fear. Humanity may be new to your conclave, representative, but we are not new to war. We did not evolve on a single world with no natural defenses, as your Abe so dismissively put it. Earth is a death world by your standards, and we survived it. We survived predators, disasters, and each other. The holographic display flashed as the human ships accelerated suddenly, breaking into precise attack formations. You invited us here because you thought we were diplomats, Alina continued, her voice carrying throughout the now silent chamber. And we are. Diplomacy is always our first choice. The lead ship, Nemesis, fired its first salvo at the mercenary vessels surrounding outpost Helios. The precision of the strike was surgical, disabling the largest enemy ship's engines instantly. But humanity has a saying, Elena said as the conclave delegates watched in stunned silence. Sci vis pacem, parabellum. The Grand Elder's translator struggled for a moment before providing, "If you want peace, prepare for war." Elena nodded once. "We've been preparing for a very long time." The apex unveiled. The Battle of Outpost Helios, as it would later be recorded in conclave archives, lasted exactly 17 minutes from first strike to final confirmation. The delegates of the Galactic Conclave watched in stunned silence as the holographic display chronicled the systematic dismantling of a mercenary fleet that, by all reasonable assessments, should have outmatched the human vessels. But reasonable assessments had failed to account for humanity's true nature. "They're not engaging like a standard fleet," whispered Zulax, his gaseous form condensing in agitation as he analyzed the tactics unfolding before them. "Look at their formation shifts. They're hunting." The human vessels moved with predatory coordination, cutting off escape vectors one by one. There was no grandstanding, no dramatic confrontations. The Nemesis directed smaller strike craft with the efficiency of a neural network, isolating targets and eliminating them with cold precision. "Second Squadron, execute pincer maneuver on Quadrant 4, came a calm voice from Elena's communication device. "Hermes and Apollo, run dark and position for kill shots on their command vessel." Elena watched the battle unfold with the same measured expression she had worn during trade negotiations. Only now, the delegates recognized it for what it was, not the careful consideration of a diplomat, but the calculating patience of a predator. "You've been deceiving us," Dravox said, his voice a low growl, "presenting yourselves as mere diplomats when all along—" "We never claimed to be mere anything," Elena interrupted, her eyes not leaving the display. "Humanity presented itself honestly. Your assumptions about our capabilities were your own." On the display, two human vessels that had appeared to retreat suddenly reappeared behind the mercenary command ship, emerging from what should have been impenetrable sensor-dampening fields. Their synchronized strike severed the command vessel's communication array first, then its weapon systems, before finally targeting life support. "How?" began the Grand Elder, mandibles clicking rapidly. "Quantum entanglement cloaking," Elena explained dispassionately. "One of several technologies we developed during our less diplomatic periods of history. The mercenary fleet, now in disarray, attempted to scatter. The human vessels pursued with relentless efficiency, not in blind fury, but with calculated intent. Each disabled ship was boarded by small craft that departed from the larger vessels, like parasites detaching from a host. Marine teams have secured 3 enemy vessels," reported the voice from Elena's device. "Data cores recovered. Prisoners taken from command staff only, as ordered." Elena nodded once. "Excellent. Complete the operation and prepare for return to conclave space." Dravox's scaled hide bristled with a mixture of fear and fascination. "You're taking prisoners. I thought your order was no survivors." For the first time since the battle began, Elena turned away from the display to face the Vraxian directly. "Protocol Thunderstrike authorizes the elimination of all combatants except those with actionable intelligence. We don't kill indiscriminately, Representative. We kill efficiently." The distinction sent a shiver through the chamber that had nothing to do with the environmental controls. As the last mercenary vessel was neutralized, the conclave delegates remained transfixed by what they had witnessed. It wasn't just the technological superiority that disturbed them. Many species had advanced weapons. It was the methodical nature of the human response, the complete absence of hesitation or mercy once the decision to act had been made. "Commander, final report," came the voice again. "Outposts secured. 14 civilian casualties before our arrival. All mercenary forces neutralized except the 8 command officers in custody. Research data protected. Standard cleanup procedures underway." "Acknowledged, Captain," Elena replied. "The Conclave has been witnessing your work. I believe they have some questions." She turned to face the assembly, standing straight-backed in her commander's uniform. The transformation was complete. The diplomatic facade had been set aside, revealing the military leader beneath. Yet somehow, this didn't feel like a deception expose. Rather, it was simply another facet of humanity revealed when circumstances required it. The Grand Elder stepped forward, his ancient exoskeleton creaking slightly. "Commander Chen, the Conclave requires an explanation for this display. Your species joined our alliance as a peaceful member, yet you maintained a hidden military force of considerable capability." Elena inclined her head slightly. "Grand Elder, humanity has never hidden its nature. Our historical records, which were provided in full upon our application to join the Conclave, document our development as a species. We evolved as pursuit predators on a world with apex threats in every ecosystem. We survived by cooperation, innovation, and when necessary, violence. But your diplomatic corps," began Zilax, "is composed largely of former military officers," Elena finished for him, "including myself. We believe that those who understand war best are most motivated to seek peace instead." The implications settled heavily on the assembled delegates. The humans they had dismissed as soft diplomats, as an insignificant species seeking protection among galactic powers, were in fact something else entirely. "Your ships executed combat maneuvers I have not seen in 3 centuries of military service," said Dravox, a new respect evident in his tone. "Your tactics, they aren't standardized conclave procedures." "No," Elena agreed. "They're human procedures, developed over thousands of years of conflict. We hoped never to need them in conclave space." The holographic display showed the human fleet regrouping, the operation complete. The Nemesis took position at the center, surrounded by its escort vessels in a formation that was both protective and ready to strike in any direction if needed. "The Conclave must reevaluate humanity's position in our alliance," the Grand Elder declared, his mandibles clicking thoughtfully. "Your species clearly possesses capabilities beyond our initial assessment." Elena smiled slightly. "That would be wise, Elder. But I hope this demonstration also makes something else clear. Earth is committed to the principles of the Conclave. We value diplomacy, cooperation, and peace. We responded to a direct threat against our people with proportional force, nothing more." "Nothing more?" Zilax bubbled incredulously. "You annihilated a mercenary fleet that has evaded Conclave forces for decades, and you did it in less than 20 minutes. 17 minutes, corrected Elena calmly. "And yes, that is proportional from our perspective. Had we wished to demonstrate our full capabilities," she left the thought unfinished. As the human fleet began its return journey to Conclave space, the delegates found themselves reevaluating everything they thought they knew about their newest member species. The soft-skinned diplomats had revealed themselves as something far more dangerous, a species that preferred peace but excelled at war. In the days that followed, the Conclave's intelligence division scrambled to update their assessment of human capabilities. They discovered hidden references in Earth's historical records to conflicts that dwarfed anything in recent Conclave memory, to weapons of mass destruction that had been developed and then voluntarily abandoned, to a species that had nearly destroyed itself multiple times only to emerge stronger. A week after the Battle of Outpost Helios, Ambassador Elena Chen, once again dressed in her simple diplomatic attire, took her seat at the Conclave Council table. The atmosphere had changed. Where once there had been dismissive tolerance, now there was cautious respect. "The Conclave has reviewed the events at Outpost Helios," the Grand Elder announced. "We find that Earth acted within its rights to defend its citizens, though we would prefer more consultation before such actions in the future." Elena nodded graciously. "Of course, Elder. As I said, diplomacy is always our preference." As the meeting proceeded to other matters, Dravox leaned slightly toward Elena. "Your species is full of contradictions, Ambassador. You are diplomats and warriors, predators and protectors." Elena considered this for a moment before responding. "Perhaps the contradiction is in how others perceive us, not in what we are. Humanity has always been both. We extend our hands in friendship first, always, but we never forgot how to make a fist." The Vraxian scales rippled in what might have been amusement or unease, a lesson the galaxy will not soon forget. Elena smiled, a genuine expression that nonetheless revealed the predator that humanity had evolved to be. That representative was precisely the point. Throughout conclave space, the story spread. The species that had arrived as diplomats had revealed themselves as warriors of unexpected capability. And while some feared this revelation, most found a strange comfort in it. For in a galaxy of ancient conflicts and emerging threats, perhaps what was needed was exactly this: a species that genuinely desired peace, yet possessed the absolute capability to enforce it when necessary. Humanity had revealed its teeth, and the galaxy would never see them the same way again.